everybody for coming today. My name is Hillary Mintz. I'm the Waukesha County Public Information Officer. You're going to be hearing from a couple of speakers. You're going to be hearing from Deputy District Attorney Abby Nicolai. Assistant District Attorneys Randy Sitzberger and J.J. Crawford are also here to answer questions. Anthony Poza, a family friend of Lynn Hernan, will be reading a statement as well. So after their statements, we're going to take some questions. We're going to kind of go across the room here. And if there's something that was not answered, we'll take a few more. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Attorney Nicolai.
Thank you. We stand before you today on behalf of the victim, Lynn Hernan, her close friends, and the community as a whole, seeking justice for a life that was unjustly taken. Our hearts are with them. The process of a trial can be a difficult one that demands careful examination of the evidence, scrutiny of witnesses, testimony, and application of the law. And through this meticulous process, the men and women of this jury fulfilled their duty with integrity and diligence. We'd like to thank them for their service, as well as the witnesses who testified and played a vital role in the outcome of this verdict. The defendant betrayed Lynn out of greed. This case highlighted the financial vulnerability of the victim and what a person will do to get what they want. Our team is certainly satisfied with the guilty verdict. It's been more than 5 years since Lynn passed away at the hands of Jessy Kurczewski. There would not be justice here today without the efforts of the entire team involved in this case, starting with the investigation done by the Sheriff's Department here in Waukesha County, the tireless work done by Dr. Bedritsky with the Medical Examiner's Office, and her work with Dr. Kasenko at NMS Labs, which was vital evidence in this case, and all the personnel in the District Attorney's Office, including our Victim Witness Unit. The verdict here today is a step toward closure for all those who grieve Lynn and witnesses who were called to the case. It's also a clear message to the community that this behavior will not be tolerated here. The defendant will be sentenced at a later date. She faces mandatory life in prison on count 1, as well as additional prison on the theft counts. Thank you.
On behalf of Lynn's family and true friends, my name is Anthony Poza, and I was close with Lynn for my entire life. I would like to note that Lynn was not a loner. She was the life of most get-togethers when she was around. I would also like to note that she was a compassionate, humble, and very generous person. She would give you the shirt off her back if she knew it would look good on you. Lynn was far more than a friend and much more of a family figure. As I grew up, my mom would take us to whichever lake Auntie Linny was living on, and we would have beach days many times throughout any given summer. As I got into my young adult rebel phase, she would console me and understand any struggles or personal feelings I had and offer her ear and her home as a place to escape the realities of college and life. In the last year of her life, 2018, Linny met with my family and friends for St. Patrick's Day and was again the life of the party. Throughout that summer, I contacted her, and me and my Uncle Keith would go see her and enjoy an afternoon of conversation and good stories, usually paired with good food and good drinks, as Linny always enjoyed entertaining even when she got sick. When I learned of Linny's passing, I immediately knew something was awry and not reality. I thank God every day for the detectives and DA that represented this case, as they kept me well informed and were sympathetic to my feelings and my beliefs, as they had the same concerns. Justice has been served. Rest in peace, my lovely Auntie Lynn.
All right, we'll take some questions now. We're going to just start on this side of the room. So, Brett, if you want to go first, and then we'll just kind of make our way across the room.
So a lot of us were here last year for the Brooks trial. That lasted 18 days. This lasted 17 days. What was it about this case going in that you expected it to go so long?
The case was definitely a complex one, and the huge financial aspect to it, we knew was gonna take a lot of time to present in a way that was easy to understand for the jury, as well as the interviews that the defendant herself gave and wanted to give, took up several hours as well. So that coupled with the complexity of the medical evidence, we knew going in, it was going to be a pretty long trial.
Bruce?
Yeah, for the deputy district attorney as well. Financial medical reports, you had kind of two approaches. Where do you think your strongest move was in convincing jurors to side with the state? Was it through the medical evidence or all those financial documents?
I think it all played a role. I think that we, going into it, believed the financial aspect was the motive for the murder. But our team has discussed this, and we really believe that the defendant's own statements in this case were extremely compelling evidence.
Vicky?
What did you think about the defense's tactics? I know you mentioned during closing that it was almost an attack on Lynn Hernan. What did you think about the way that they approached it and some of the witnesses that they brought to the stand?
We're just so grateful that the jury came to this verdict and wasn't swayed by things that we didn't believe mattered. And so we're happy that the jury was able to come to that conclusion and not be misled, as I referenced in my closing, by that information.
Anna?
Anthony, if I could ask you a question, just what was your reaction when that verdict came down? And if I remember correctly, does your necklace have any important significance today?
This was Lynn's dad's. I'm fairly close with him as a little guy, and he would tell me stories of World War II, and he was a pretty cool guy, and this was on her when she passed away. It's symbolic of Lynn Hernan and her family. She was an only child, so she didn't have any next of kins, so it was important for me to carry that on.
And what was your reaction when the verdict came down?
It's been 5 years of stress. I'm just glad we finally have justice.
Hey, Anthony, one more question if you don't mind. How did it feel having to sit in that courtroom every day and listen to the defense kind of trash Lynn and even retaliate and so forth?
It was a roller coaster of emotions. I just know that I needed to be there for Lenny, and it was just in one ear and out the other. So, handled it well.
Carol? Or CBS? Go ahead.
Yeah. Were there any questions that the jury had that especially caught you, aren't necessarily off guard, but kind of intrigued you or caught your attention?
All right, I guess I'll take this one. I don't think anything surprised us. We certainly thought they would ask for exhibits. I mean, we had well over 200 exhibits in this case. The defense had more, so I don't think it surprised us. They sort of came in piecemeal a little bit, but eventually I think they took all the financial documents, if not the summaries we put together, so very happy to see that they certainly relied on Mr. Vulcanier and Detective Plennis' summary exhibits in reaching their decision ultimately.
Brandon? No? Okay. Anybody else have any other follow-up questions? Okay, Britt and Bruce, everybody.
So one person that was talked a lot about in court, but we didn't hear from, was Jennifer Flower. Why was she not charged? Why was she not called as a witness?
The state and the sheriff's department are considering all options as far as that goes in terms of charging. In terms of why we didn't call her as a witness, again, our goal was to streamline this case as much as we could so that the jury could understand the important things easily. And she didn't quite fit into that goal that we had. I'm not sure, that's all I'll say about why we didn't call her.
In regards to the 2 counts of felony theft, I'm no expert in this field, less than 100 but more than 10. What impact is that going to have on additional potential years in prison?
So the jury's verdict took a Class F felony down to a Class G felony for count 2. So essentially, instead of 7.5 years of initial confinement, she's exposed to 5 years of confinement on that count. It's the same class as count 3 now, so both of those ended up being theft of over $10,000.
And just, Randy, while you're here, this case, I mean, obviously it spanned years. How much time did it take up just amongst you and your colleagues over this time?
So this team has actually been through a few iterations. I came on sort of late when there was a retirement, and this case was ongoing. I know Detective Plennis, as you probably heard during his testimony, came on late. Actually, Abby and Detective Hoppy are the originals, and then myself and JJ and some others kind of got on board. So we certainly spent many, many man-hours, especially going through the financials. I have to give these two credit, April DeValcanier and Detective Plennis. I mean, they're the ones that went through the numbers and the accounts and tracking down that money. Where did this money go? Where is it? And putting together these slides so that we didn't have the jury, you know, looking at 25 financial accounts all at once, right? We had PowerPoints that still took us a day and a half to get this information in, but it was much more efficient and I think understandable for the jury, and I think that helped them a great deal.
With the amount of exhibits, was it not surprising then that the jury took as long as they did to deliberate, or was that something you anticipated given the verdict of this case?
I think we anticipated about this long of a verdict. I mean, with a 3-week trial, there's a lot of testimony to consider. There's a lot of paperwork to look through. At one point, I think they asked for a calculator, so they were obviously crunching their own numbers back in that jury room and giving it 100% effort. So certainly not a surprise that a verdict would take into a second day of deliberations at all with everything we gave them.
Anthony, one more question for you, I'm sorry. Just what's next for you and your family and Lynn's family friends?
Hopefully move forward from this and have a real celebration of life. Never really got to lay her to rest, so that'll be what we try to do next.
Okay, final questions? Anyone? Everybody's good? Okay, again, thank you all, and thank you all to this team. There will be a release coming shortly this afternoon.